First of all, before we get into reviewing this brand new Apollo, that's not actually new, but it is new to Dealership Tycoon, I've decided from now on in all my Dealership Tycoon reviews, all the cars are going to be maxed. Fully upgraded. Brakes, tyres, engine, the lot. Because upgrading is so cheap in Dealership Tycoon, I think it's always worth it to tune up your cars. Unless they're at the bottom of the class, in which case, just tune up the car before it and save yourself a load of money. Now, on with the business of reviewing the Apollo Arrow. I've just realised how fitting that name is. Because when Gumpert rebranded to Apollo, aside from the fact the name got a much better change, Apollo is, amongst many things, the Greek god of archery. So, Arrow fits absolutely perfectly. Unless you're trying to Google about it, in which case it's just a pain in the arse. Seriously, Google, you are shit. But this car has a bit of a checkered history. It was a concept car, jointly developed between Apollo and SCG, or Glickenhaus, known to some people. This was an engineering company started by James Glickenhaus, who, amongst other things, is known for putting an engine in the Ferrari Modulo concept, pretty cool, and making the last Enzo very different. He turned it into the Pininfarina P45, named after the Ferrari P34, because, you know, that's the racer. So, he's a massive car nut, and he's got his own car company, and then he jointly developed it with this, Apollo. Only this isn't an Apollo, because this was back when Roland Gumpert was still running the firm. He's the person that Gumpert's named after. And then afterwards they sort of went bust and changed the name to Apollo, and got bought by new people. And then this released. This concept, the Apollo Arrow. And it was supposed to be a racetrack-only car with a V12 with a road-going version called the Apollo S, which is the Gumpert thing I was driving yesterday. But it wasn't. It was a concept that moved, and it did have an engine. And that engine wasn't the V12, it was a twin-turbo V8. Which is also a handy way to put into perspective how much horsepower has changed. Because this has the same amount of bhp as what was once the fastest car in the world just 15 years before this was released. Well, 10 years actually before this was released. It's got the same amount of power as a Bugatti Veyron from an engine half the size and with half the turbos. That is one of the most amazing examples of automotive advancement. And also made to make old people feel weird. And by old people, I mean people who grew up thinking the Bugatti Veyron was the best car in the world. And that includes me because my life was brought up just watching old Top Gear. Proper stuff. That Bugatti was 252 miles an hour. Now I get that this is a game and I've also tuned it, but this one a little bit quicker. Despite having more downforce, 312 miles an hour. This is why I tune cars in Dealership Tycoon. Because that's only 20 miles an hour off the top speed of a Bolide, which is the fastest shop car in the game. The way it gets there is also pretty impressive. I'm just going to slow down when I get out of this corner. Whoa. Right. What's this? I'm doing 120. Full throttle. And I'm 200. In about 2 seconds later. And even after that, 5th gear is impressive because you're still climbing. And then 6th gear. And it just doesn't let up. until around about 300. That is a very impressive acceleration. And I am absolutely loving that power. It's a very powerful car. It's a very quick one. And it's very fun to use all of that power. Barreling along this road now, it's a very fun road. And it's made even more fun by just how good this car's handling is. I can brake quite late because the brakes are so good. And then flatten it in the middle of the corner. Because it turns that well. This is a great handling car. But I don't like it, handling wise. Because there's no other way to say this, but it's not fun. It's dull. There is no feel in this car at all. Feels very, very virtual, and I know I'm driving it virtually, but driving it virtually can be made fun. This one just isn't. It's obvious that I'm just pressing a few buttons to make it turn, rather than I'm actually in the driver's seat, turning the wheel to stop it from crashing and me getting an injury, or dying. It's dull. And that's a shame. I mentioned earlier that since Apollo was the god of archery, the name Apollo Arrow fits, because arrows are related to Apollo. But I'm also a massive Percy Jackson fan, and I want other Percy Jackson fans to tell me, when you see this name, the in-game name of Ares Spear, what do you first think of? Because what I first thought of was Clarisse LaRue and her electric spear, Maimer, or Lamer, in the Percy Jackson books. I hope that's not just me showing my nerdiness, but actually I don't care. I'm nerdy, and honestly, I'm embracing that. I was going to say let's go racing, but just having a look at the way the back sat down as I launched it, that's not very good. The suspension felt quite soft. That's really not a good thing on a hardcore track car. What is a good thing, however, is just how easy it is to kiss the apex with these things. So easy to drive. Brake, turn, through. Whoa! 31.41. That is quite an impressive lap time. Well, it's not quite an impressive lap time, a very impressive lap time. Shame it's so boring. And that's the thing with this car. It's a nerd's car. And not the good type of nerd, like the one that's just helpful. The bad type of nerd. The one that cares only about statistics and probabilities. The really stereotypical nerd, the actually type of nerd. Because they might say, I accelerate faster than you, and I can turn better than you, so therefore my car's better. But the fact of the matter is, well, I can absolutely assure you that no matter how fast they're going, I'll probably be having more fun in another car. So I don't like it. Shame. Anyway, and on that bombshell, thank you all for watching. And, well, I'll see you for long-term reviews, probably.